Kia ora, and welcome to Friday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect New Zealand. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz. And today we lead with news risk aversion is prominent in markets. Markets aren't looking at the recent past economic data, they're more concerned about what lies ahead. And excessive spending on AI is part of the reason investors are growing more nervous. But there was recent data reported. US initial jobless claims fell sharply last week to 231,000, but only by as much as seasonal factors would have indicated. There are now 2.15 million people on these benefits, marginally lower than at the same time last year and similar to the 2024 level. US exports fell in November from October, and imports rose in the same period, accentuating their trade deficit in goods and services to $57 billion and back to April levels. The American trade deficit with Asia rose to $71 billion in November as the shrinking deficit with China was offset by growth in Southeast Asian imports. The drivers of this shift are American multinationals. American factory orders rose in November from October to be 4.2% higher than the same month a year ago. What is interesting about this data is that neither the ISM PMI or the S&P Global Factory PMI picked up this rise in November. Maybe part of this is because wholesale inventories rose, and perhaps intercompany orders aren't accounted for in this data. In Canada, they booked a slightly larger trade deficit in November too, which was more than expected, also on falling exports. And the Monetary Authority of Singapore, their central bank, held monetary policy steady for a third consecutive review yesterday, maintaining the slope, width and centre of the Singapore dollar nominal effective exchange rate policy band, as markets had expected. However, they lifted their inflation outlook for the coming year to 1% to 2%, up from the 2025 forecast range of 0.5% to 1.5%. Actual CPI inflation in Singapore came in at 0.9% in December. In Europe, both economic sentiment and employment confidence picked up in December. Of equal importance is that this survey picked up more modest inflation expectations in the same time. In the same region, the Swedish central bank held its policy rate unchanged at 1.75%. International air passenger travel was up 7.1% in December from the same 2024 month, with the Asia-Pacific travel levels up 10.9% and driving the overall shift. North America recorded the weakest rise at 2.1%. International air cargo was up 4.2% in December, up 6.6% in the Asia-Pacific region, up just 0.8% in North America, also the weakest region. Container freight rates fell again last week to be 37% lower than year-ago levels, mostly due to a weaker outbound China trade. Bulk cargo rates were up 14% last week, though, to be 175% higher than year-ago levels, but that is distorted by an unusually low base. In a much longer perspective, this is actually only back to levels it was 30 years ago. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now just on 4.23%, down 3 basis points from this time yesterday on the risk aversion. And the price of gold will start today at $5,273 an ounce, down $16 from yesterday, and basically holding its recent highs. Silver is down $1.50 at $112.50 an ounce, also holding high. Platinum has slipped slightly as well, now at $2,604 an ounce. Aluminium and tin have both hesitated today too. American oil prices are up another $2 at just over $65 a barrel, while the international Brent price is also higher, now just under $70.50 a barrel. These are 4-month highs, spruiked by the Epstein distraction adventures by Trump aimed at Iran. And the Kiwi dollar is up 20 basis points from yesterday, now at 60.5 US cents. Against the Aussie, we're up 10 basis points at 86.3 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're also up 10 basis points at just over 50.6 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just over 63.9 and up 10 basis points from yesterday, its highest since late September. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $84,778 and down a sharp 5.2% from yesterday as the general risk aversion sentiment spreads. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been high at just under plus or minus 3.6%. You can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again on Monday.